Yes, hello and welcome to today's stream. Who has forgotten to turn on all of the things? This man, that is who. That one needs to go on. That one needs to go on. That's already on. That does not need to go on. Oops, there we go. Reveal of next week's episode. Okay, that's it. That's it. What am I missing? I think that's it. Okay, hello and welcome to tonight's show. Crazy chaos. I've been having an amazing conversation with my host this evening here in Minneapolis, where I'm currently hanging out until Gen Con. So many people already in chat. Good to see you all here. Some of you not sleeping very well. I'm sorry to hear that. But yes, hopefully we're going to have fun over the next 2 hours. Your questions, of course, are paramount. Don't ask them just yet. I know. Don't ask them just yet. Adrian, your air conditioning is out. Oh my goodness. If the temperature is anything like it is up here, I sympathize completely sympathize. That's the word. Now, I'm not alone tonight. This is not a thing. Oh, look at you. Thank you so much for that. I'm not alone tonight. This isn't a trend. It's just that we had Dave from Nerdarchy last week. This week we've got I'd like to say a good friend of mine on the show, as a matter of fact, and hello Australia. I am talking about, and you should know, you should be able to anticipate who this person is really. I mean, there's two big Kickstarters running at the moment that you've seen on this channel anyway, and this is the one who's running the most successful one, if I can say that. Dave might shoot me, but it's true. Till, hello, welcome to the show.
Hello, and welcome everyone.
Those of you who don't know, Till is the mastermind genius behind Dungeon Fog. Dungeon Fog, of course, our map maker of choice and future map maker of everything. I see Unmade Gaming is here. Mike from Unmade Gaming, welcome to you as well, sir. So Till, for anybody who couldn't possibly know about Project Deos, in a nutshell, what's it about?
All right. I'm Till. I'm the founder of Dungeon Fog, and we've started 2017 with our Kickstarter campaign to create the battle map editor. Over the past years, we have been finishing the battle map editor. We launched in October last year. And one of the big things that we always wanted to do is not just stop at the battle maps, but go full world. So with Project Days, we are enhancing our service from just having battle map editor to having a city map editor, a region map editor, a world map editor, and we have just passed the stretch goal. So we are adding a solar system editor, a galaxies editor, and the possibility to map your to 3D map your worlds onto three-dimensional objects like a sphere, or change the mapping style, the projection style of your maps. There we are at the moment.
That's so cool. That is so cool. I'm going to take you quickly to the Kickstarter page so that you guys can have a look. If you haven't signed up for this thing yet, yes, they're a sponsor of my channel, for those of you that know that they're a sponsor of my channel. So yes, I'm behind the project, but I'm also involved in the project. I've been involved in the project since early on, and there you can see it, over 1,000 backers, $131,000 raised. You can check this out, kickstarter.com, Project Dungeon Fog. You can find all the super cool stuff. I mean, guys, this is just mind-blowing. If you make maps, this is it. This is going to be the thing that you use. You're not going to go anywhere else. It's like Photoshop. It's just going to be the thing that gets used. I promise you it won't. And I'm not saying that because I'm being paid to say that. I'm saying that because I've used this damn thing in prototype. They said, here's the prototype. So I wrote well done as a continent. It looked really cool. I don't have that map anymore, sadly, but because it was just a thing. But it's so awesome. Have a look at it. Go and become a backer. You get amazing stuff, and they add, this is what blows my mind, and this is one of the reasons why I'm promoting it, right, is because as they, where is it, right, as they unlock stuff, so as they unlock their stretch goals and the usual kind of bits and bobs, they add on more stuff. So we've got the Dwarven pack. So now you have Dwarven stuff that, look at this little Dwarven doorway. I mean, if that doesn't lead into a Dwarven mine sanctuary fortress thing, I don't know what. Then they add the Elvish pack. Then they add the Orcish pack. Then the Cthulhu Lovecraft pack. the space pack, and there's the logo, so you can see there, total transparency here. But as the stuff is unlocked, we get more stuff, and it's not like, oh, you don't get this because you weren't there, you don't get this because you weren't there. It's a case of you get it all. It's like Dungeon Fog. So if you've got a subscription to Dungeon Fog, you've got their Victorian maps, you've got their fantasy maps, you've got their science fiction maps. It's the same thing, but this time it's with freaking entire planet stuff. So I'm promoting this as much as I can because I want all the cool stuff. Bottom line, that's where it is. So there's more coming out and stuff. Let's just see. There's so many assets coming out. I mean, what have we got now? We've got the new stretch goal that's just been reached. That was for space. So that's planets.
Yeah, so there will be an asset pack, or we're calling it a setting, for space, which is not sci-fi, because what we're going to do is we're going to have the community vote on the settings they would like to see. So a setting is basically what takes place on a world map. That could be a cyberpunk setting. This could be a steampunk setting, modern age setting, fantasy setting. Well, fantasy setting is there already because we're starting with the base of a fantasy setting, and vampires, whatever you can think of. So we are going to offer a lot of options, and the community at the end, so all the backers at the end, can vote on the settings. We are already we have the fantasy setting. Now they can vote on additional settings already, because that has been unlocked. I think it's 5 settings. So 5 more settings that we can vote on. And we just today, as we unlocked the space setting, which is now there as well, we unlocked the new stretch goals. And the big new stretch goal that we are aiming for is the desktop application. I think this is very huge, because it means that if we reach that goal, we are going to create a desktop application that you can download, install, and run Dungeon Fog and Project Days on your desktop. We're doing that for Mac, PC, and Linux. It also means that we now are going to have the chance to offer perpetual licenses. So if you're not a big fan of subscriptions, there will be a way to one-time buy a license for all the editors. And that is, I think, something that will excite a lot of people. And we've promised that for a long time, so now we have the chance to do that. And with that stretch goal, since it is a big one, there are development costs involved. We have said we are going to do a road stop on the way to the stretch goal, where there will be another, I think, if my math doesn't fail me, at 3 in the morning here in Austria, the 7th setting. So at the end, when the Kickstarter campaign is done, there will be 7 settings. 6 of them you will be able to vote on, because fantasy will be fixed. And along with that, there will be a lot of smaller asset packs. Those 25 plus asset packs, we call them landmarks, because they are basically things that you can take and place on your map as a landmark, and then link that to other maps, because I think that is something very important to mention about Project Days. All those maps are linked with each other. So you can create an interactive map where now you have the galaxies and the clusters and the solar systems, and you can place links on that, link into a solar system, place a planet there, link onto the planet, onto the world map, and then place into the region, city, and down into the back map.
It's so exciting. It's so freaking exciting. I mean, I remember when I was doing star maps, I got this big book of blank pages, and I would draw planet systems and then lines going off pages saying go to page 55, and there would be this, and it never worked. I mean, it was fun doing it, but it was absolutely painful. Till, we're going to talk a little bit more about Project Deus in a little bit. We've got a whole bunch of stuff that we normally do here on the show. So I see that there was some voting going on what do you get when you cross a dwarf with a goblin, and there was Gwaff, there was Dwalin, there was Dwoblin, there was Doblin. No one said you get a battle, because that's what happens in my mind when you cross a dwarf with a goblin, is you get a battle. But anyway, so there's some lovely debate going on there. Lots of people very excited, of course, for Project Deos. It's super cool, it's super exciting. But Till, you're not just a map maker, you are also a dungeon master.
Yes, I am.
That's right. But are you relatively new, or have you been playing for a long time?
I'm relatively new. So I started dungeon mastering around 2015 because we wanted to do something in our office. We wanted to do something to do together. So we were thinking of game night. And at that time, we all were or started watching Critical Role. So
the gateway drug.
The gateway drug. It absolutely was. So when we sat at the table and said, well, what game could we play? Someone brought up, well, what about a role-playing game? I've never played D&D before. And each and everyone was, oh, do you know that show? And we all were like, yeah, cool, let's do that. So we decided to do our own office game, D&D, a 5e office game. And somehow I got talked into being the game master without ever being a player before. So I haven't been playing as a PC ever.
Wow.
No, never before. I have just been playing as a game master. And I can't wait until the day when one day will sit on the other end of the screen.
Interesting. We should have played when we got together in March. A lot of you don't know, but in March I went to the UK. Well, a lot of you do know that I went to the UK in March. And it was courtesy of Dungeon Fog and World Anvil. We got together to talk about all kinds of things and how we can work together to promote and to build tools and stuff. I didn't know that. We should have played a game or something. So I think that's pretty cool. I think that's, well, it's good that you're a new player, a new DM anyway, because it means you've got fresh ideas and you've got cool stuff. So we're going to go into some questions now. So if you have got questions, hang on a moment, I've got to go here and then I have to go here. So we're going to go into some question time. Okay, so these are your questions. You can ask questions if you've got a game that you're running, if you've got a system that you're struggling with, if you've got a problem. That's it. Let us get some questions coming in. Remember to put, there we go, Honorable 596 kicking us off straight away. But remember to put the giant word question in caps in front of your question so that I can see it and re-ask it. If I miss it, it does happen. So why is that not showing up there? He asked himself. Inner voice. No, I don't know. The whole gap down below was supposed to be the questions. Anyway, we've got some questions. Honorable 596 says, lately I've gotten it in my head that I want to make up plans for a heist, a thief, criminal campaign someday, but I keep running into my own issues with the idea, namely that the crimes invariably hurt people and only stealing from criminals or those participating in lesser crimes isn't financially viable. Any advice? Heists are always difficult. There is the old axiom that if it's being stolen from someone who has lots of money and they steal from the others, it's the old Robin Hood story. Robin Hood, of course, stole from the rich to give to the poor. So there is that space that you could look at, I suppose. Have you done any heists, Till? In game?
Yes, we just did. We are playing Tomb of Annihilations right now, and I took the framework and then I basically did what you did with Ghost of Saltmarsh, where I took the framework and picked out the interesting parts that I really like, and then built all the stuff around it that just fitted my story. So in Port Nyanzaruhafen, I think I'm German phrasing and English phrasing. I think it's Port Nyanzaru. I came up with my PCs having to try and break into one of the merchant prince villas and steal a book from there. And they have the option to either prevent the Thieves Guild from stealing it, and they could prevent that either by being the first one who steal it, or by alerting the town's guards. And interesting enough, I have two groups I'm playing with, and one group went for the we're going to steal it ourselves, and the other ones tried to alert the town's guard, who then said, "Well, that's your business, stop them." So they had to be the first to stop them. So
That's lovely.
it was both where heist scenarios, I would say heist scenarios, yeah, where they had to go in and try to get it or try to prevent someone from getting it.
Well, that's a lovely answer to your problem then. Rather than having them commit the heist, have them work out how to prevent the heist from happening, but by not being allowed to just go to the guards and say, hang on, this is a problem. So I think that could work. That could work very nicely. Let's see, what's the time? We're going to take questions for another 9 minutes. Isaac Torchstone asks, how do I make... Oh, there goes the question off the screen. I'm going to find it. How do I make a revenant reoccurring villain more difficult during higher levels? Isaac, I'm going to suggest that you wait and watch next week's Great GM video, because when we start talking difficulty and how to make things more difficult, immediately people go, oh, double the hit points, give them more minions. That's not the right solution in my mind. Yes, it certainly can make the monster more difficult, but it also makes the game that much longer, and that's not necessarily what you want. You don't want the villain to be more difficult because your players are dying of boredom rather than death. So, you know, we want to balance that out. So next week we talk about that at length. There's 3 components, the 3 Ps. You will find out what those 3 Ps are next week. I won't give it away for you, but it certainly does allow you to change the difficulty of your encounters on the fly, and so easily and so quickly. I was introduced to this particular way of thinking by Game Master's Vault, as a matter of fact, who said, "Hey, look at this video. I watched a video and went, I think I agree, but here's some more stuff." So it's lovely. Just a random nerd. Have you ever played Mutants and Masterminds? Yes. And if you have, do you have any good ideas for branching a campaign from street level heroes to a cosmic space battle? Wow. Till you've only just played Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, I've played Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder a little bit, and Savage Worlds.
Okay.
But I haven't played that system.
Yes.
Next week I'm going to be a player in Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, nice. Lovely. Yeah, Mutants and Masterminds, I actually have a playthrough on my one channel, Great GM Live Plays, where I was playing it with the original Bacon Battalion. We took a bit of a break from 5th edition and we went and played Mutants and Masterminds. Always a challenge with Mutants and Masterminds with superheroes is, how do you make it more convoluted? How do you make it more... How does it become more difficult? And I think if you look at the Marvel films, where you've got, especially in the last 2 films, Endgame and the last one, look at how they got Spider-Man and Doctor Strange into space. They were on a ship that took off and they got taken. That's not a spoiler, I mean, if you haven't watched the film by now. Yeah, they got taken up into space by the ship that they were getting onto, and they got exposed to a bigger world. So yes, that was one way of getting them into space. And once you get into space, then suddenly scale becomes so much bigger. Yeah, you're okay now, Till.
Okay.
Yes. Zirigo asks, any recommendations for a starting GM and Pathfinder homebrew involving Vikings in Golarion? Well, I don't play in official campaign settings. I know of Golarion. Vikings are super cool. Till, you're closer to them than I am, kinda.
To the Vikings?
Yes, they're just north of you, aren't they?
Probably in my genes, yes.
Have you done Vikings before?
In a setting or in my game, how do I introduce Vikings? Can you repeat the question? Can you help me? It's not a path-related question, but...
starting GM, Zerigio, wants to include Vikings in their Pathfinder game. What would you suggest that they look at, perhaps? in terms of Vikings? When you think of Vikings, what do you think of?
Um, okay, if you need inspiration, like if you need to figure out how you could go for them, I mean, there's the TV show Vikings,
Right.
which I would
Yes.
I would recommend.
Correct.
Um,
Have you watched Norseman?
I haven't. It is on my watch list, but I haven't started.
I'm going to direct you to watching Norseman because it depends on your sense of humor.
I know it's
And
it's it's kind of weird and funny. My brother, I have a younger brother, and he already watched it, and he said this is like Monty Python's meet Vikings meet Game of Thrones. Go and watch that. And it's on my list, yes, but I haven't watched
it's
it.
you know what it's Vikings but with modern sensibilities. So
So
it's
there is,
snappy
pardon me.
dialogue and
Yeah.
it's the basis for my entire Swedish accent. I watch that show and I'm like, Swedish is the new language that I want to learn how to mimic.
There is one movie I would heavily recommend because I have watched that movie a lot, and it's with
13th
Antonio Banderas,
13th Warrior.
13th Warrior.
Yeah.
And especially since it is Vikings meet fantasy, it's absolutely great and very, very inspiring. I really like that. So if I would go for a Viking setting or include Vikings in my game, I would go for that because there's a lot of stuff to take from.
Yep, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. In terms of bringing them into Galorian, look for an island somewhere on an island chain that hasn't necessarily been labeled or named, I suppose, and you can definitely bring them in. So much
Yeah,
stuff
you
that you
can
can do
raid
into.
something. I mean, that's what they do. Like, have them go somewhere and raid and take that as a hook.
That's it. That's it. Lovely. Moonlight 18 says, my group can't focus, and I'm not. Oh, I beg your pardon. I'm not the GM. What do I do? Well, Moonlight, this is obviously, it's a horrid situation to be in, and I can understand your frustrations. It happens to all of us. I would always advise that if the group can't focus, go to the GM and ask the GM how they feel. Do they feel that the group is incoherent and is in that space? Then go to your fellow players, the ones that maybe are not as unfocused, and ask them how they feel. You know, sometimes we go, oh, the group is unfocused, they can't do anything, my group is bad. It very often is the case that is what's happening. Sometimes it's one individual who's causing that disruption to happen. Sometimes you are the one that's causing it to happen, and you need to unpack that and understand it. And it's not because you're a bad person, it's because you don't fit in that group. So I always look at it and say, well, if the group isn't working, there is a chance to find a group that does work, whether it's for the person who's disruptive in your game and they go and find another group that's perhaps more mechanics focused, or is more simulationist, or is more beer and pretzels type of, not really focusing on the game, just getting together and having fun. Or perhaps it's an opportunity for you to find a different game where people are focused. You know, there's such a broad spectrum of players out there and game masters out there, and it's difficult to find a group that fits you perfectly. And sometimes it's about just trying out different groups. That's why I love going to conventions, is because you get to play with people that you wouldn't normally have even thought of playing with. And you get to see, oh, hey, there's a whole different style of playing, or there's a different, approach. So there we go. So I really like that as a means to do that. And if you are looking for groups, I have to say it, rpgtablefinder.com. It's the website that the Web Goblin and I made that has groups. There's 11, 12, 13,000 people using it to go and find groups. That's online and that's around on internet and in your local area, local community, and you can chat beforehand, so you make sure that everything is in the right space. You want to try and find people who click. So go and have a look at that. Okay, Donkey Monkey 2012 says, have you ever considered reviewing fans' homebrew content, characters, worlds, etc.? And if you have, what conclusions did you come to? So, Donkey Monkey, I often get sent people, oh, this is my new character class that I'm thinking about, this is the new build. Because I'm not interested in the numbers, and when I say not interested, I am incredibly thick when it comes to working out mathematical values. I've played Magic the Gathering when it first came out. That was when it was still printed on clay tablets, and I mean that was long ago. And I never saw the combinations. And I played Warhammer, never saw there's just something in my brain which goes, I don't see those things. So when people send me their character builds and their class builds and stuff, I go, well, it looks nice and it's interesting, but I can't tell if it's a balanced build or if it isn't a balanced build. And in terms of homebrew, I don't think anyone should be able to judge anyone else's homebrew. I think you should look at your homebrew and say, is it a fun place to play? And are my players having fun? Yes, good. Then it's a great homebrew. Was Lord of the Rings a great homebrew? There was someone who was wanting to do a podcast with me the other day, actually. And they wanted to talk about good world building and examples of good world building in films. And we were struggling to find examples that would hold up under scrutiny. They said, oh, Star Wars is a good world building space. And you go, well, sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it falls apart in terms of being true to what it's sort of stated. So yeah, people do send me stuff, and occasionally I look at it, but I'm also getting sent a whole bunch of other stuff from publishers and stuff. And however, watch this space. I am working on bringing something to the channel for you guys where it's looking at different role-playing systems at the very least. So watch out for that. Watch out for that. I see Eric Eziel is in the channel. Hello, Eric. Welcome back. It's been a bit of a long journey for you, but life is finally getting right. Good to see you here. Okay, so DJ, DJ Down Under, your question will have to be asked again, if you please. We are on half the hour. So tonight's theme is about change of self. So we've got YouTube videos to have a look at, without a doubt. We've got a wonderful writing challenge, which I think is going to challenge you, and it's going to be incredibly personal. I promise you that much. You might not actually want to participate, and that in itself should be indicative of things. So it's a heavy one tonight, so brace yourselves for that. We're not going to look at YouTube videos just yet. What we're going to start this whole thing off with change, with unpacking the psychology that sits within your mind to allow you to be more creative and to have NPCs that are different from you necessarily, is there was this test that was done, a psychological test with a bunch of people at university. And the test was, imagine in front of you, now I want all of you to do this, imagine a square, just a square, next to it is a triangle, and then next to that is a circle. Which one are you? Which one are you? Are you the square? Are you the triangle? Or are you the circle? Just answer very quickly in chat, square, circle, triangle. Think about it. You're the triangle, Till.
Yes.
That's interesting. That's interesting. You like triangles?
I haven't thought of that, but
that's the shape you like.
It was, in your example, the one that I just picked, because I don't know why it talked to me.
Okay, interesting. So we've got circle, we've got triangle, square. There we go. Circle says Mr. Nobody's. None says erupt. You are the page upon which everything is written. I understand that. Okay. Square, circle. All right. So keep your thought in your head. Those of you that chose square, generally, and this is what they're saying, generally, people who chose the square like things to be neat and like things to be in their precise space. They like they like the corners to be at 90 degrees. They like things to fit, and you can stack squares, and so they like things to be in order, and they like things to fit. Triangles, people who chose the triangle are precise. They like the points that the triangle comes to. There's an equilateral triangle is nice. It fits together. Everything is the same length. So there's a precision there. So that's the kind of person that likes triangles. And just again, I just want to look at how many people said circle. We got circle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Lots of circles. And what the circle represents is people who like sex. So there we go. Those are the 3 different types. So, and if you must know, when I was asked that question, I said circle. So anyway, there we are. It was just a little bit of insight into what these shapes mean. Sometimes they don't mean anything, and sometimes they mean all sorts of things. So there we go. Each depends on the mood, says Shadzar. Well, yes, I suppose that's entirely true. Anyway, so yeah, the circle actually does have a meaning in terms of something along those lines, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, I promise the stream will be more serious than that moving forward. We've got just a little bit of time, bit of time. All right, so Till, we're going to come back to some questions that were asked very briefly. We're talking Project Deos. Wait, hang on a moment. There's a question here. Which has something to do with the theme. If tonight's theme, this is Aidan Ockrent, if tonight's theme is change, what about making a string of characters with personalities and design based off of the 5 stages of grief? Well, yes, absolutely. You could certainly go with that in terms of grief. Those 5 stages. What is it? It's denial. It's what is it? Denial, negotiation, anger. Denial, negotiation, anger, and then there's something before acceptance. Yeah, I don't know. I can't add in here. Yeah, no, there's the 5. I can never remember them because I'm always stuck in denial. So there we are. So yes, right. Guy reading part of chat convo thinking it had something to do with what he said. No, you see, I learned that long ago. Denial, anger, bargaining. Oh, depression. Yeah, the part that you get sad. And then acceptance. There we go. Absolutely. Okay, Grizzlys is kicking off. No. Threadbare Ink is kicking off the questions again. My Asima player would like some interesting racial feats. Any ideas? Well, the Asima, of course, are supposedly of the bloodline of angels and the angelic. Racial feats, I mean, there are plenty of them available to you in the various books and things that have come out, so there's plenty of opportunities to look there. Something that I've always thought could be quite interesting would be the ability to see the individual's death. Kind of a divine insight, if you will. Not what caused the death, just how they die. Do they die happy? Do they die sad? I think that could be particularly terrifying. Eric, that's very kind of you. Thank you for that donation. You are our new monster to beat. You can see the tracker bar down there. You are our new monster for this evening, so thank you for that. Right, so yeah, I would give them the ability to see how the person dies, whether they die happy or sad. You're sort of building on that those things. So extra nerdy. Sorry, yes, go for it, Till.
Yeah, no, so sorry. We have an Azimar player in our group, or we had. I think I've killed her. But
the character or the player?
No, the character. Oh. The player's still alive, I think. So what I asked the moment I saw that she's playing an Azimar, I asked her, how do you, as an Azimar, how do you deal with that between or amongst humans? So because I thought that this would be interesting. Is she a proud Azimar? Does she accept her angelic heritage, or is she probably kind of an outcast? What is the conflict, if there is a conflict? Does she accept her heritage, or does she not? Because I think having this touched by an angel or herited angel blood is very interesting for conflicts. Always conflicting with good decisions versus bad decisions, parties who are always doing like bad decisions, and always dancing around the alignment questions. Having an Azimar in there might be very interesting because you challenge yourself often with how do I as an Azimar deal with those problems. So I think it's a very interesting pick. It's a very interesting choice. In terms of feats, as Guy said, there are a lot out there. I would focus on the question, who am I and why am I? Like that, and then pick the right feat for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that the things that come to mind, as you say, there was that old TV show, Touched by an Angel.
Yeah.
way back when, and now you can look at Lucifer, the show on Netflix, for that sort of the difficulty that there is in terms of integrating with society and the like.
And a good recommendation is Good Omens. If you're a Doctor Who
Yes.
fan, there is a Good Omens with again 3 in the morning. My favorite Doctor Who actor, I still lost his name.
And
The
David
chap I
Tennant. David Tennant.
yeah, David Tennant. Yeah, right. Watch that.
Yeah.
Good, bad, perfect, and very funny. Terry
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 Pratchett, Neil
Pratchett.
Gaiman. Yeah.
Yes, right.
Lovely, 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 lovely. Okay, some cool questions. I'm gonna answer these questions, then we're gonna talk about Project S a little bit more. So very, very quickly in terms of some of the questions. I'm working. This is from Mokilima. I am working on a mystery for my campaign. Any ideas on how to run a sort of Carmen Sandiego style pursuit? Wow. Okay. Yes. Carmen Sandiego. Old game. I never played it. I know of it, but I never played it. Did you play it, Till?
Well, I have played on the. I was a child. Like I was. It must have been one of the first Where in the World is Carmen San Diego games. It was on the old Macintosh classics of my dad, a black and white version where you just have to click. And I was a child, so I had no idea where the fuck Montenegro is, or so I didn't get any of the clues. I was just learning the script of the game and just following the click orders because at some point I have failed so often that I know the answer just by
Right.
picking.
I've been there,
Um,
done that last
but
week.
we are, I mean, that is the perfect opportunity to do riddles and treasure hunts
Mm.
because we are playing in Tombs of Annihilation. I've put out a treasure hunt where people are trying to find a location, a hidden, I think it's a golden deck of many things with all the bad cards removed. That's at least what the legend promised they will find. Um, and so they're desperately trying to find that. And at every place, I have a new hint um, that they need to uncover. And you can go full,
Mm.
full on all your riddles you want to do. Have image riddles, have word puzzles, whatever you like. It's a great way to incorporate that. And my players love it. So
I'm not going to add anything to that because I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant. Stephen Roof on YouTube says, "What is your opinion on players playing as young or teenage characters?" Stephen, if you watched the Broken World Chronicles that I ran for a while on Twitch and YouTube, the one player, Freddie Hines, was playing a teenager, sort of a 14-year-old, and was dealing with those kind of angsty things. And it was a real challenge for people to like his character, because teenagers are trying to figure out who they are, and there's a certain petulance that comes with that age and the like. And there's also, I think, a big disconnect. It's always interesting when you say to an adult, pretend to be a teenager, because then you're not getting what the adult thinks teenagers, well, you're kind of getting what they think the teenagers now, but you also get what they were like as a teenager when they were there, because how else do you pretend to be a teenager? You just go back to what you were when you were young, or you go in the opposite direction, you just make this screechy, snarky little creature from hell. I think it's difficult because you want to try and get that balance. And I think when you look at the show like Stranger Things, for example, where you've got these teenagers, for me, third season, and it's not a spoiler, I felt the third season was the weakest season because the teenagers, well, these young teenagers weren't acting like teenagers. They were doing things. Some of the things were teenager-esque, but it felt to me like it was adults writing for teenagers. Their reactions and things I didn't feel coincided. I thought season 1 and 2 was a lot stronger for that reason. I also have to ask the question, why would someone want to do that? There is comic relief, of course, that comes in with playing someone who's younger, but there's also so much adults don't take the character seriously. The child, if you like, is overlooked, and when they start getting violent, they're put down in terms of just being a child rather than being taken seriously. So the player can get frustrated with that as well. So it does become a bit of a
what's
challenge.
that? Was that a question as a GM? Like, is one of my players, or was that a question
Just a
I want to
thought.
say?
Just a thought on what is your opinion on players playing as young or
Because as a
teenage
GM, I
characters?
would say if you know the player who wants to do that, then base the decision upon the player. Because I had one in one of my campaigns, and I knew him very well, so I knew he could pull it off. So I allowed him to play a 12-year-old bard girl. Um, he wanted to do that, and at first I was like, I'm not sure, but he's a really good role player, and he really knows his way around. So I said, yeah, try that, and it was a great experience. It was very fun and very interesting, but it was like I think it's more on the expert level of role playing.
Hmm?
So I would say if the player knows that and can deal with that, and if the group is accepting that, then absolutely it's going to enrich your game. If it is something where everyone feels like uncomfortable or possibly just not experienced enough, it might easily turn into a nightmare.
Yeah,
So have that in mind.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Eric Aziel on YouTube says, this is for Till. Okay, I'll be quiet. With Dungeon Fog growing into a component of the Project Deos, do you have a vision for how Project Deos may be part of something even larger? Also, woohoo for being back in action. So Eric wasn't with us for a long time. But yeah, what are your thoughts there, Till?
Okay, I think in terms of maps, we have reached the outer limits because I don't think that you can go further from the battle map into galaxies. Uh, and we're covering all those maps now, so I don't think that whatever is on the horizon for Dungeon Fog after Project Days is going to be map related. We do
VTT.
know
VTT.
We do know, however, that there are still some things that people heavily request and that we want to do, but we want to have the space and the mind completely set on that. So we will not tackle that until we aren't completely finished and certain that things work out with Dungeon Pocket Project Days. And
Yes.
I think it has to do with how can I play on those maps. So that will be the next big thing, but it is a few years away. So
Right.
now we're focusing on what we have at the table, and then we will continue.
Yep. No, that makes perfect sense. And I'm super excited. It's like let's get there. Let's one step at a time. Sigian Luxor says, because familiars can't attack and are limited to tiny size, meaning low hit points, and are pretty much cosmetic, how do you feel about unique creatures beyond the existing list? Sigian, I'm wearing a t-shirt of a familiar. Um, Pinky. He is familiar from the Ghost of Saltmarsh game that I run on the Dungeons and Dragons Twitch channel. And yes, he has no ability to do anything other than be the hero of the show. He has his own freaking t-shirt. I mean, you know. So Pinky is a familiar, and the player who owns the familiar said, can Pinky do certain things, like be thrown around and act as a bit of a distraction? And I went, well, I don't see why not. I don't see why not. Then the player said, well, could I cast Breath Weapon on Pinky? And I said, well, Pinky's not allowed to attack. So he said, sure, that's fine. But what if Pinky was just on someone's head and happened to release flame? That's not an attack. It's a very sneaky little player, I must admit. And he's actually a GM, so I should get him on the show and question him. Do you like torturing your GMs with technical questions? On the other hand, I completely trust him, so I said, yes, absolutely. So he threw his familiar, the little pinky octopus, at the back of the head of someone. They latched onto the back of the head, and then he had Pinky basically just release flame. I think it was flame in all directions. And of course, he's on the head, so you kind of go, well, where is it going to go? So yeah, I think that was just the idea who it's not so much about the creature itself. I mean, you could have little rabbits with horns growing out of their heads, or fantastical creatures and things. They do have some value, but I think the value is derived more from the interaction. So rather than using it as a mechanical device, use it as a narrative device, and then you get t-shirts. You know, what the flick. So yeah.
Interestingly enough, I'm not the biggest fan of familiars because I think they often are used as a way to boast myself as a player, to just show, look, I have a beautiful familiar here, and he's doing this and he's doing that, and look at my familiar, instead of driving the narrative of the story. So whenever my players come up with a familiar, I'm like, not sure if that is going to improve the game or is just improving the personal space of the player. So I honestly am not a big fan of familiars, and I'm always careful.
Animal companions can go exactly the same way.
Yeah, exactly. I think you should always remember that you are playing a collaborative game. You're all telling a story. And ask yourself, I mean, it's fun. I love Pinky on the show. But again, Keora is a trained and experienced game master, so he knows how to tie down his let's say, stage time to allow others to have the same stage time. So always ask yourself, is that really adding to the story, or am I just sitting there and trying to have everyone marvel at my great creation that actually doesn't really add to the game?
That's it. Absolutely. Okay, we've gone a little bit over time, but you know, that's just what happens here. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to go over here so we can just see what's going on. What are your thoughts on the new background, by the way? What do you think? Let me get out of the way. So we're thinking of doing this rather than like the trees and stuff. Give us your thoughts on that. I really would like that. But for now, I think it is time for you guys to earn some experience points. So I was asking Till, I was like, what YouTube channels do you watch? And he's like, I watch politics and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's exciting, because we're talking YouTube channels here. So hold your questions for now. We will come back to them. I'm glad that you like the you need a background for your camera slot. Yeah, I suppose I'm floating a little bit, isn't it? So yes, agree. Okay, so the nature backgrounds in general, this background's nice, like the trees, this one's nice. Okay, yeah, the chroma does go a little bit weird. So I've got to look at that. So right, we're talking YouTube videos to watch. As usual, you can earn experience points. Till, how many experience points are you going to allow our wonderful people watching? How much are you going to allow them to earn?
How much?
Experience points per video. So they're going to share a video link. I'm going to give them the name of a YouTube channel. They're going to go find it and post it in chat.
What's the maximum?
The maximum we've given out at the moment, I think, was 200. I was feeling very generous that day. The minimum is usually 50. What would you like to give?
Then I like the number 180. I don't know why, but it's...
There you go, 180. I'm not going to do any maths tonight because I can't. So you're going to have to keep track of your experience points. These experience points, of course, you say, well, what can I use them for? I've got all those experience points. You can go to your dungeon master and hand in your experience points and tell them that you legally won them and you were certified by 2 game masters that you got that experience legally. So you can cash those in at your game. And if your game doesn't have experience points, well, then that be an experience lesson for you. Okay, the first channel that we're going to be looking at. It's a new channel that I found. I spoke about it last week. Todd's Workshop, Latchet Crossbow. This has nothing to do with today's theme. I couldn't link it in. I was thinking, well, this is about change. It did signify the major change in the time period where we moved from crossbows as the primary weapon of choice to firearms. The Latchet crossbow was in a period just as we were moving from crossbows to firearms as being the dominant weapon on the battlefield. And So I suppose it's in an era of change. It's in an era of self-reflection. Todd's built his own little crossbow, and he shows how really powerful it is. It is at close range. So something to have a look at. If you like history, this is definitely something to go and give a watch. Post up the link to Todd's video, Todd's Workshop, TODS, Todd's Workshop, Latchet Crossbows. Have you ever fired a crossbow, Till?
Yes, I have. I have. I When I was a teenager, I owned one. It wasn't the best one, but I had one. I bought it at a medieval fair
Oh,
somewhere,
lovely.
and I was most of the time I was searching the crossbow darts because I just shot them somewhere and couldn't find them. So that was that.
Yeah. I had a longbow that my grandfather had, and we'd take it and fire it out. We had these big
Yeah,
fields nearby.
I had a bow myself too. Yes, I really love archery. Like that is. I think it's a great combination between sports because it is really heavy to hold the thing steady
Yes.
and to aim and to fire, but it has something meditational to you when you do the right breathing. So I'm absolutely into that. I love that.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. All right. So that was Todd's workshop. Now, talking about change, this next video is definitely change. It's change on a big scale, and this is Black Magic Craft. No stranger to this channel. Power Ranger toy conversion. The video itself is quite long, but he basically takes a dollar store figure and he converts it into this amazing statue, and it's pretty damned amazing what he does. I like to see this conversion because it literally goes from the red Power Ranger to this amazing statue. I see that links are not being allowed in chat on YouTube. They're not even showing up for me. They're being auto-blocked. Are links activated? Oh my god, what do you mean are links activated? Automatically block spam messages. I'm just checking now because that blocks bad words, so don't use a bad word. It doesn't say here anything about that. All right, I'm going to have to look. I'm going to have to go into that and have a look as to why it's not posting up links. That's very weird. And
Why you do that? Since you've been talking about Transformers, there is a great show that I like. That is The Toys That Made Us. I think it's on Netflix. Where people talk, like where the companies are introduced that were creating the toys from, like, let's say my time when I was a kid, so around the 80s or 90s. There is also a big, there's one show about Transformers and how they came into place, how they came into existence. And it is so weird to see from what they were made. Like they were extremely, let's say, creative when it came down to how to make a Transformer figure.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting show. I love to watch that. It's not YouTube. I can't recommend it on YouTube because it's not YouTube.
It's not on YouTube.
But
no, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Cover for you, Guy, while you're searching your.
No, that's fine. Thank you. I have no idea. It's broken. It seems to be broken on. Well, Twitch seems to be working, but YouTube says no. So I'll have to go and figure that one out. I'll go and figure that one out. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say each and every single one of you gets 180 experience points. Use as you like, not redeemable for batteries or gold. Okay, so that was Black Magic Craft Power Ranger toy conversion. I like the toy conversion stuff, simply because it's something that you can do and something you can look at. Grizzles, you did get that link up into Twitch, so I'm going to double your experience points. You get 492 experience points because that's 180 doubled in my world. Now, the next video to have a look at is someone who I'm actually hoping to meet at Gen Con next week. This is Seth Skorkowski. Metagaming isn't all bad. He actually goes and looks at how metagaming is good, and he makes a very strong case for why we should use it, and he encourages us to use it in his typical Seth style. He makes a very good argument. If you're looking into metagaming, if you're worried about metagaming, he he does this little skit where he's with his characters, his fellow players, and they argue about metagaming and stuff. And he makes a very good case for it. So I would thoroughly recommend that you go and have a look at that. Very good video there. Then this is a completely, there we go, the Cosmic Postman. You get another 180 experience points in Twitch. This is another one, completely different, completely new to the channel, and this does not in any way, shape or form legally constitute advice on mental state, etc., etc., etc. Entrepreneurs in cars. Entrepreneurs in cars. How to accept your flaws. Now, I was having a conversation earlier on this afternoon, and the Americans, it's flaws. How to accept your flaws. Because I was saying flaws, and the Americans that I was with couldn't understand why I was talking about the floor upon which we were sitting. I'm like, no, it's flaws. So how
do you have to accept the floor that you're on?
You do. I mean, unless you're in space. But yes. So for all those, how do you accept your flaws? Your character flaws. How do you accept your character flaws? This particular video features someone who was quite heavily scarred as a youngster, and how they learnt to deal with that. This one is going to come back to haunt you. It is when we get to the creative writing, which is in half an hour. And then the final video for you to check out. Is a TED Talk. So TED YouTube channel, TED Talk. Who are you really? Who are you really? The puzzle of personality. An introvert telling extroverts why we're extroverted. Very, very interesting talk. If you don't watch TED Talks, I suggest you do. They are very insightful. I love them. I watch them and I go, yes, that's brilliant. And I completely forget about it. Although sometimes they do give me insight into the character world.
I still remember one where someone was talking about D&D in a TED Talk. There is a big D&D TED Talk where he talks about how D&D improved his life. And I still remember that one because I really was sitting there and it was giving me the shivers where I'm like, wow, he really sells it to me. Although I am already playing, but it's like, yes, man, I know what you're talking about. This is exactly how I feel.
That's it. And that's... there we go. Oh, goodness. The chat is still on floss. It's definitely not floss. You do not have... Explain your floss. How to deal with your floss. I could give you a story about candy floss, but candy... What is it? Sugar... spun candy? I love being in different countries and exploring how each country calls things. So as an example, between Japan, America, and South Africa, we say that we have heartburn. America, it's acid reflux, acid reflux, and in Japan, it's called burning heart. And so when you're using the translation device, you say acid reflux or you say heartburn, they haven't got a clue, or heart, whatever it is. So it's interesting how everyone sort of talks about things. And flaws. What are your flaws? And of course, router and router are my favorite Americanisms. Anyway, all right, so those are the YouTube videos that you should check out this week. If you've got some time, go and have a look at them. They certainly do leave one thinking a bit more, perhaps in depth than not. We are definitely coming to creative writing. That's in 26 minutes. Until we get there, questions. You can ask your questions again. If you've got questions about Project Deus, now's the time to ask them. Till has stayed up until, what is it, 3:30, 4 a.m. for you? I mean,
now 4 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, good lord. You see what happens when you live in Austria? You have to wake up at 3 a.m. Anyway, so there we go. Shadzar, yes, absolutely. The fanny pack, all of the implications that go with that. I see cotton candy in Canada, candy floss, candy cotton, candied cotton. I can't eat the stuff anymore. I overdosed when I was a kid, so it completely puts me off. Okay. Right. Back to some questions here. DJ Down Under 757 says planning on running a Yandera NPC. Any tips? Now, do you know what a Yandera is, Till? How's your anime knowledge? Okay,
No
I
idea.
didn't know either, so I cheated and asked the chat. Yandere is an anime term for a character who is so in love with the protagonist that they are willing to kill anybody who threatens their position as being the potential partner of the protagonist. So, in extreme
Yeah.
psychological space, Yandere, says Angus Boys. That's how it's pronounced, Yandere. Look, I think, and I see you say look at Discord. I don't have Discord open at the moment because of the show, so I don't want it to pop up. But extreme cases, you need to make sure that your party is accepting of that. It's one thing to have it in anime where it's creepy by nature, at least that's my opinion of it, but make sure your party is happy with that to begin with, and then also they have to have a reason why they are so devoted to this person. There needs to be that maniac, that dependence on that person. It's very, very important to make sure that you get that across. Yeah, Till.
I think it depends on the length of your game, because
Yeah.
if it's a one shot, I think it's perfectly fine.
Yes.
Because you are not going to play that character for a long time, and that can make hilarious situations. If you're looking at a game that might take 2 or 3 years on gaming time, like sitting on the table and playing, I think you're going to run out of options, because such a character is like set for disaster. That something has to go wrong. Either character gets killed, or the party kills the character, or I don't know what's happening. But it's the same with the over dedicated paladins who have to smite everyone who's a foe, and that might be funny for a one shot, but it might get extremely annoying over long term, because you're running out of options. It has eventually go wrong at one place, and then you have to pick a new character. If that's fine, go for it. I would go for it. I would love to see something like that on the table. As a GM, I would love to see it, but I would tell the player in the first place, be advised, this character is not going to live very long. And then it's up to the party to decide how that plays out.
That's it. Shadzar says it isn't anime. My apologies. It is just Japanese. If it's Japanese, the R would become the R sound. So Yandele. I don't know how they even pronounce it. Yandele, because they're very phonetic, very as written, so is pronounced. So I'm definitely not into the anime or into that kind of space at all. Right, so Hero Metzler asks the question, when does Project Deus release, or is that still classified, and how are you guys doing tonight? Sorry I'm late. No problems for being late, Hero Metzler. Just declare a wizard is never late but always arrives exactly when he means to. So what is the release date for Project Deus?
It's not classified. We're trying to be as transparent as possible about that. We like the launch. We don't know exactly when to launch yet, because it isn't finished yet. We have to finish it first. We are aiming at the end of 2020, but with program development, there's always the chance that something goes wrong and we need to postpone the launch a little bit. So we are aiming for end of 2020, but it might be spring of 2021.
Okay.
But for the Kickstarter campaign, you have the opportunity to pledge for alpha access, and alpha access is going to launch at early 2020, so next spring. I think it might be, depending on how fast we are, it might range somewhere between February to March. Maybe we're faster, then we will start in January, and I think that will be very optimistic. So Alpha 1 will be spring next year, Alpha 2 will be summer next year, and then there is a closed beta which will take place in fall next year, and hopefully by then we are finished, and then we will launch and release everything by the end of next year.
Okay, there we go. I think, Eric, that also answers your question. When backing Project Deus, does one get immediate access to the beta? No, one gets, if you back at the certain tier, you get access to alpha when alpha is ready, which may only be towards the second half of next year. So there you go. And but having said that, though, it's not like you guys are new to markets. Dungeon Fog has been going now for a year. So it's not like you guys are going, oh, we want to make this. We've made one really cool thing, and we're making another cool thing. So I think that's also something to bear in mind.
Yeah, we have been. I mean, we have launched in October last year, but we have been in closed beta for another half year before that. And we have been in alpha development for another year before that. So I think for those who have been part of our alpha, they know that we try to dish out stuff to you as fast as possible so that you can already toy around with it. And I mean, our first alpha release, you know that like Blizzard is doing this World of Warcraft Classic thing.
Yeah.
We just recently talked about we want to do, or we should do, a Dungeon Fog Classic where you see the first alpha, because it's terrible. Like, it's absolutely. I don't know how people could work with that.
Because they could see the greatness that was going to happen.
Yes, and they gave so much feedback, because with all the feedback rolling in, we were able to build upon that. So I know that our first alpha is most likely be very experimental, but we're going to build on that. And I think Alpha 2 already is going to be a rather solid thing.
Yeah.
Still, we try to keep in mind that people want to do stuff with that. So whatever we bring into Alpha 1 will be at least something that you can use for map making. So might it be landmasses that you can already export and use in other tools to create biomes and stuff on that. So we understand that you go to the Alpha not just to click buttons and play around.
Right, you want something out of it.
You want something out of it. So we're trying to do our best to give you that.
There we go. Joan Frere asks, what RPG books do you recommend that aren't Dungeons & Dragons or fantasy? Well, that's a very good question. Jean, I'm actually going to Gen Con with pretty much two goals in mind. One is to meet fans and to connect with fans and to say hi, because I love meeting people. And the second one, and I've got this, I'm going to show you very briefly, but I've got to keep it secret. So do you see that? That's my schedule. I'm going to move it around so you can't screen grab it and see what I'm doing. Those are the days, color-coded. Those are all the meetings that I have with publishing houses such as, I can't mention names because it's all under contract, but those are the meetings I'm having with publishing houses to actually start a new series on the GM channel where we are exploring in depth alternative role-playing game systems to Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder, because those are the dominant ones and those are the easy ones to get information on. We want to say, okay, well, let's look at something like, I don't know, off the top of my head, something that I did on the channel many years ago, the Lone Wolf role-playing system, which is a single D10 system. It's very, very simple, very easy to get into. What we're wanting to do there is to review the entire role-playing system. So I've got 4 GMs that are going to be coming and joining me. We'll do a playthrough. We'll do a review of the system, of character building. So it will be a complete thing, and each month we'll look at a different role-playing system. So I hope that's something that will be of interest to you guys. It's something that's of personal interest to me because I only really get exposed to Dungeons and Dragons, unless it's something like Save or Dice where they said, let's do Starfinder. You go, okay, cool. Well, let's do Starfinder, sure. But that's still Pathfinder, which is still based off of D20, which is based off of D&D. So it's something that I want to do, and I hope that you guys will support it, because obviously the publishers want to know, well, how many viewers are we going to get? And rightly so. They need to make money. These things don't print themselves for free. So that's what we're doing at Gen Con. That's what we're doing at Gen Con. So now that you do know that.
I'm racking my brain to come up with an answer for myself, because all I can come up with is either fantasy related or D&D related.
Yes.
I think the only things I could come up would be Savage Worlds, because it is so open in the system, and it is a great system. Like, I love it. The exploding dice of Savage Worlds are, man, this is just great. And I think Dungeon World would be also something where I would
Right.
say it sounds fantasy because of the word
Sure.
dungeon, but it is very, very open from the
Yeah.
system
Yeah.
to
There
using
are
it.
so many out there. There's Traveller. There's obviously the Star Wars ones, and so there are lots out there, but you just don't get the time. So what we're saying is okay, we're going to dedicate time to do this if there's enough of a response. Hero Metzler, I'm just watching the time, 15 minutes. Hero Metzler says, what was the number of the last Ghosts of Saltmarsh session that I did? It was number 8, because we have 9, 10. No, it was 9, because we have 10, 11, and 12 left. 3 episodes remaining. Excuse me, those 3 episodes will play out in August. The next one is the 10th of August, I think, and then it runs until the 24th of August. So,
Can't wait to see how the story goes on. Like
oh,
when this giant shark appeared, I was like,
yes,
very
the
interesting.
giant shark. Querelt says, question, not important, but it is a question nonetheless. Is Till doing anything else than streaming? I wanted to watch him before I went to sleep on World Anvil, and when I get up, he's streaming again. Yeah, so what else do you do other than live streaming? Apart from, writing Project Deus and
I'm not
running
sure
your
if the
own
question is,
game.
do I do live streaming myself? The answer is no, not yet, because I just can't find the time for that.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
if the question is, will I be on another stream? I will be on another stream
Yeah,
tomorrow at World Anvil.
that's
Um,
right. That's right. And let's just unpack that quickly, because not a lot of Kickstarter. I mean, you have been on a lot of streams recently with Dungeon Fog. Well, with
yes,
Project Deus.
with Project Days,
And
yes.
I know why, because I'm part. We've got this Discord chat between all of us, and we sort of unpack it and look at it, and the reason for that is because each milestone that's unlocked, each space that's unlocked, has implications for people who might want to sponsor and get in on the Kickstarter. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. And also, I mean, I love talking about Project Days, so if I find a chance to be somewhere and talk about it, it's great. Again, I can't, for now, I don't have the time to do streaming myself, but I'm trying to dish out YouTube videos once in a while, so that you can bring yourself up to speed there. Um, yeah.
There's a question here for you from Troa Barton 69. This is a question for Till. Wouldn't a cosmological map be and I'm going to put in a word here, technically furthest you could get from a battle map? And it really is. I mean, in terms of
I would say yes, because now, seriously, we have been, when we did the concept, we have been sitting there and thinking of, okay, now one of the narratives of Project Days in the Kickstarter campaign was we want to start with the battle map, tell you as the potential backers and people who are interested, how the camera zooms out slowly and slowly, more and more, to reveal what is included in Project Days. And once we've reached space, I think we had this awkward 15-minute pause where I said, okay, what's beyond that? What could we do? What possibly could we do in terms of map making that goes beyond space? I would be very interested if you can come up with something,
yes,
because we could.
the multiverse, but that map would. I mean, I don't even know.
Well, that would be just blobs of
Yes,
universe. How do
there we
you
go.
how do you how do you show a universe? I mean,
Absolutely. And at what point? At what point does it get to where you go? Okay, enough's enough, right?
string
String
theory.
theory, right? When we go the opposite direction. Okay. Catherine Bishop says, "What do you think of PCs playing their dead characters as ghosts or revenants?" Scaled to level, of course, and needing a solvable issue with the threat of Grim Reapers hunting them. I love the idea. I think it's super cool. Make sure your players are happy with that, though. I actually did this once. I had my usual players, and their characters died, and I said, "But you wake up in a tomb. You've been buried for 100 years." you were labelled heroes for your valiant death, and you are now awake, but you're undead. And the one player got up and left straight away. They didn't care. They said, "That's not it. I don't want to play that kind of game." I hadn't asked them if they would be happy to play their undead self or not. It just didn't sit well with them. So there is always that to think about.
Yeah, we just had exactly that in the last game 2 weeks ago. One of my players is playing a turtle, a spore druid turtle, who is obsessed with death, and he got into a fight against I only know the German name for it. It's yellow marsh creeper, like a plant that can infect you and kill you. And then another one of the flowers sprouts out of your corpse. And
Nice.
I killed the player, I killed the character, and I saw that the player on the table wasn't happy with that, and I instantly came up with that he suddenly awakes, and he has this like alien, he has this seed in him that still tries to control him, but with wisdom saves he could push that down. So he's now a walking corpse with this seed in him, and he still needs to figure out how to live with that as a symbiont. And I also did a pause in the game and said, it's up to you. If you don't want to play that character, rip out that thing and you die and you're out of it. But if you want to continue, because if you think that your character is still interesting for you, work it out. Maybe this is more a sickness than permanent death, and you are not just undead, but you are kind of infected with undeadness, which might be cured at some point, because it's fantasy, so there can always be a cure for everything. Just come up.
Always a spell somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Always.
But I think it's very interesting. Also, I can recommend the How We Roll podcast, because I know that Joe, who's running the Cursed Strat podcast there, loves to play with the idea that his players are dead, ghosts, revenants, weirdly transformed people. So he's always doing that to his players, and
nice.
It gives a lot of inspiration to listen to that podcast.
Yeah.
I can really recommend that.
Oh, lovely. Honourable 596, I see you mentioning there Ogdude's character generator and GM tools for the Star Wars role-playing game. Which Star Wars role-playing game? There's three of that I know of. There's the West End D6 system, there's the D20 conversion system, which is my favourite one, there's Saga, actually there's four, and then there's the Fantasy Flight one, which I don't like because of the dice, but otherwise I think it's a great system. Angus Boys says, what should players be doing whilst at the table after their character has died? Interesting.
Oh.
Have you had characters? Have you had players whose characters have died, and then they sort of, do they get up and leave? Do they go and buy beer and pizza?
Well, actually, for now, I always had the. I was in the situation where it happened at the end of the game, or closely to the end of the game. So I was in the position where I could say, all right, we are going to end the session here. Let's talk about this in the next session. If that would have happened early in the game, I think I would have said, do you want to stay? Then please have your time and roll out your new character, create the new character in the meantime. Or I would say, you're welcome to listen. Stay here, listen, and just have a great night. Drink a beer, have some chips, or I'm absolutely fine if you go home.
There you go. I've had players where their character has died. This was in the Adventures of the Windswift. Simon's character, Blackston, died, and he remained for the rest of the game, just listening quietly, thinking about his next character, I assume, but he was also there just to support the rest of the guys as they went on. He didn't provide any advice, he didn't talk to them, because he obviously wasn't there in-game, but definitely when there were breaks and things, he was there to say, oh, I like what you did there, I like what you did there. So I think that that's what they should be doing, is if their character has died, that they should be supporting their fellow players to begin with, and then, yes, possibly rolling up a new character. BNAA UK says, this is for you, Till. Have you thought about doing something like Campaign Cartographer 3? I think CC is Campaign Cartographer. What they did with dioramas. That's where they would generate a picture. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, BNAA UK, they would take your top-down map and they would project an elevation of it, sort of with walls and roofs and that sort of thing. I think that's what they did. I only used it very briefly before I threw it away. I'm sorry, I didn't like it.
So in terms of battle maps, it is a concept that is flying around. We haven't started with that yet, because again, so much things to do. Having isometric maps where we can take the wall shape and create an isometric view would be possible, would be doable, because it's a vector-based system, so we can take all those shapes and render them as we like. We have had a concept flying around for world maps or region maps where we could create a panorama view as if we were shifting or tilting the camera a little bit down, so that you would see the hills, the forest, the mountains in the back, because we can just take the assets and shift the relation from each asset to another. So when the camera goes and views into the distance, that would work. But we actually did a few experiments with that, and with the angle that our assets are painted in, it's not working. So that might be something for later down.
Definitely something to think about, though. I think it was Civilization 2 or 3. The part of the game that I liked the most, not the building of empires and things, it was when your civilization got to build their palace. I don't know if you ever played Civ that early on, Till, but you got to choose the front door, and then you got to choose the columns on the side, and then you got to choose the wings of the palace, and then the roof of the palace, and you could mix up all the classic cultures and things. And I think that's pretty much why I played that game. Anyway, we are 3 minutes away from creative writing, so we got some more questions here. Let's see. Just looking for the word question. Marco Tabell Johnson says, is there a world in fiction that you would like to see as a role-playing game? Till, have you got a world that you'd like to see as a role-playing game? I kind of do. Sorry? The Witcher.
The Witcher.
I think there is a role-playing game for The Witcher. I could be
correctly mistaken. I wasn't sure, but I think that is something that I like. I've read the books and I love them. Dark Tower, I think that would be an awesome game.
Are you looking forward to the Witcher TV series?
Yes, I am. Both, because there will be a Dark Tower TV series, which I'm looking forward to see. And The Witcher, I'm very excited because I really like Henry Cavill. He's a great actor, I think.
He is a great actor.
And he
looks Superman.
Absolutely fantastic as Geralt. Yeah. So can't wait to see that.
Interesting. Yes. Okay. There we go. As far as myself, in terms, is there a world that I would like to see? If there is, usually I just make the setting myself. I know that sounds awfully pretentious, but like with Ghost of Saltmarsh, when that came out, it was like, yes, this is really cool. But it doesn't do what I wanted to do. Okay, I'll just write a book about it. And the book's nearly finished. Oh, I've got a new cover I wanted to show you. We've got creative writing coming up. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the creative writing, and I'm going to go and find that picture of the new book cover, because last week we got opinions on the book cover. I've got a new one, which I hope you'll like. Okay, so we've got to do the thing. All right, as you know, with creative writing, this is the part where you get to participate. You get to put in whatever it is that you're going to input. Now, this is a very personal creative writing session today, so you may not necessarily want to include it in the chat, and that's okay. Because creative writing is about the journey that you are going on as the creator. You sometimes need to write about what's going on in here. As a result, if you're not comfortable with writing your answer into the chat, don't write your answer into the chat. Rather, write it down in front of you. Write it down, though, because this is often the beginning of an amazing journey. Now, I have done this multiple times in my life, and I have failed multiple times in my life, but I think it has always inspired and made better characters, and when it has succeeded, you end up being in a friend's house in the middle of Minnesota on the other side of the world, 14,000 kilometers away from where you started, and absolutely happy. So things happen. Things happen. Okay, so creative writing. We are talking creative writing. Till, you don't have to participate in creative writing because it's very, very personal. It's entirely up to you. You can just write it down on a piece of paper in front of you. It's a little something for in between creating amazing world maps and things. Okay, so the creative writing today. You are going to write down your flaw. A flaw of yourself. Something that you know is a personal flaw. I had some amazing conversations this evening with some amazing people, and there was a flaw of mine that was revealed. Not revealed. I've known about it for a long time, and well, I try, my damnedest do I try to overcome this flaw. I haven't yet succeeded in defeating it because it's difficult given what it is and where I am, but I consciously work against it every single day, pretty much every single day. So for those of you that are in America, it's your flaw. What is your flaw? I'm still trying to get the accent right. I've been here for 3 weeks now, and it's like, what is your flaw? What is your flaw? The flaw of your character. It doesn't have to be a failure. It's a flaw. It could be maybe I'll give you an easy flaw of mine. I hate being fat, but what do I do about it? That's something that I'm going to talk about. So what is your flaw? What is your flaw? If you're not sure, if you don't think you have any flaws, interesting. Is that a flaw in itself? Could be. Hubris, I think, is the right word for that. Anyway, your flaw could be that you take on too much. Your flaw could be that you don't take on enough. Could be I don't know what it could be. There's so many things there. I see Honourable 596 has got a list going of flaws. We just need one for tonight. This is not a period in which you might explore your relationship with your mother and your father. We're not here for psychological examinations of your mind. We are here for creative writing, which means we need to find a single flaw. We're going to work on that in a little bit. So I'm supposed to be bringing up a picture here, and I'm getting sidetracked. Give me a second. Flaw. What am I doing? Oh, I can use this thing here. Give me a second. Right, so this is the cover for that book based on feedback from you guys. This is what I sent through to the Web Goblin this afternoon. He is currently very, very under the weather. Horribly under the weather, as a matter of fact. Goes to Saltmarsh. Book. I've got these buried in folders somewhere. Okay, so this.
So, did I get it right that once I have it, people are writing it to the chat? So
some are writing it to the chat. If you want to write it to the chat, you're welcome to. If you don't want to, you don't want to. I mean, this is very personal. Very, very personal, so I understand. It's about 2 minutes. This is what we're thinking of whilst you're thinking about your flaws. Social skills of a drowned rat, fear of doing something new, absolutely. So lots of things here. We are not judging anybody, by the way. Not judging anybody. Flaw rhymes with law, unless you're American, in which case it rhymes with flaw. So all right, so this is whilst you're busy writing those down. So the creative writing, what are we writing? Chance Knight, you are writing down one of your personal flaws. You don't have to share it. You don't have to share it in chat. Just write it down on a piece of paper, because we're going to be developing it in a little bit. Okay. Catherine Bischoff says, getting too many new ideas when trying to focus on one thing. That certainly can definitely be a flaw. I know I myself have it. I will share with you how I deal with that. I am someone who has thousands of ideas every second of the day, and I had a very heated and almost friendship-ending argument with a friend of mine who said, "Oh, you always start this stuff and you never finish it, so I'm not even going to be interested in what you start next because I know it's never going to be finished." It was a pivotal moment in my childhood, as a matter of fact, because of that very, very, very thing of having so many ideas. So now what I do is, when I have a great idea, and of course all of the ideas are great because they're all in your own head, I don't do anything. I leave it, and if it's still in my head after 3 days, so if it hasn't gone away after 3 days, then I write it down, and then I leave it again. And if it's still in my mind, even though that I've now written it down, then I pursue it, and I pursue it with all of my will, and that's why you end up with books like this one here. So this is the new cover that we're talking about. So keep your floor top of mind. So keep your floor top of mind. This is the new cover that we're thinking of, based on your suggestions. Till, what do you think? I mean, brutal honest. A lot of people said it's too busy.
No, I don't.
We have simplified from what it used to be.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think it's beautiful because it perfectly encompasses the intro, which I was a big fan of. Like, the intro animation was great, and just beautiful. I like it. Don't think that it is too busy.
Lovely.
Yep.
Good. Yeah, we took it. It was very busy last time. We took advice from everybody watching. They said, "Oh, too busy. Let's neaten it down." So we've really neatened it down there. So I'm glad I see some people saying it looks cool. Yes, we'll talk a little bit about this project if we have time, because we're going in a little bit of an unconventional route with this. But back now to creative writing. So the flaw that you have written down, it's a very personal flaw for yourself. And so when you're dealing with these things, I'm not giving you advice on how to deal with your flaws. My advice would be go and see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. When I did that, it was absolutely life-changing, but you have to want to go and do it. Anyway, that's a whole different kettle of fish altogether. The flaw that you've written down, apply that now to a character, a fictitious character. It doesn't matter who the character is, but apply it to the character and write down how or what the character is going to do to overcome it. What are they going to do to overcome that flaw? And it's important that you do it in this particular sequence. We're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. So what is the character going to do to overcome that flaw? So if I look at this and I say, "Oh, I hate being fat," I truly do. It is an absolute abomination. I eat for a whole bunch of reasons. None of them are good, and I know that I do it. And I drink gallons and gallons and gallons of milk and chocolate milk and all that kind of stuff. Now that I'm in the US, they have chocolate milk by the gallon. In Japan, you get in these really tiny little cartons. So I've gone through. I hit a gallon a day, easy. I mean, that's amateur and rookie numbers, right? So what would the character who's overweight try and do? Well, if you watch any Hollywood film, what are they going to do? They're going to hit that gym. They're going to go on those crash diets. They're going to get motivated. They're going to do all of that kind of stuff. So that's what that character would do. A fat character would try and lose that weight. And I love it when people say to me, "Oh, well, just stop eating, or just stop eating nice stuff. Start eating seaweed." Well, that's also because of where I live in my particular case, but that's not the point. So what would they do to overcome it? Now, remember, a flaw is not a physical or a genetic issue. So, in other words, if you are terrified that you are left-handed, as I am, that is not something that you can overcome. Well, okay, sure, bad example. You can learn to write with your right hand and become ambidextrous, but yes. Look, Sagittar Beer Belly Thor, he just shook it off, didn't he? Yes, of course he did. Anyway, there was a lovely story behind that. I have a theory on that whole "why was Thor so fat" thing. I know that Chris Hemsworth, who played Thor, he absolutely hated showing off his body in the Thor movies. Thor 1 he did it, and Thor 2 he did it, and so and Thor 3 he did it, where he showed off all of his riffling muscles. I know there was interviews with him where he said he hated showing off his six-pack because he didn't want to be seen as a hunk of meat. And I think they gave him that particular beer belly and that particular scene, of course, because, Fortnite helped sponsor the movie, but also because this is now him saying, this is the end of the line. Look at me. I can have all of this extra weight and stuff and still be freaking the god of thunder and still be worthy. I thought it was quite an interesting and powerful message. Yes, of course, he's also a god. So that's a lot. That's very easy. That's very easy. Okay, so self-opinionated hubris. My character seeks help by monks and goes on a hiatus of not talking for a year. There we go, Till. That's awesome. Going to go and seek the help of monks, go on a sabbatical of some kind, learn to listen.
That was the word I was looking for. Thank you.
There we are. Words aren't the only thing that psych studies. Oh, absolutely. Right. So you've got your flaw, and you've now written how the character is going to overcome that flaw, or at least a plan that the character is going to try and do. The Captain Man X gamble until he finds himself broken and lost in more ways than one. You could go that route. Is that is it really going to help them overcome their gambling when they've got nothing left? Maybe they need to hit absolute rock bottom before they're willing to get there. Not sure. Once you've got that, this on the surface looks like a very linear character journey, and it is a very linear character journey. Character has flaw, character wants to fix flaw, character goes to fix flaw. Character fixes flaw, character moves on. Tragedies are when character has flaw, character realizes has flaw, and then character can't fix flaw because it is who they are, and then that's why they're tragedies. Nonetheless, what you now need to do is tell us why the character fails to achieve their goal of overcoming. So why does it not work? Why does me hitting the gym not work? Usually I end up in hospital because I overdo it because I tend to throw myself into things, right? But why does the character fail to do that? What is it in themselves that causes them to fail? So it's not, someone prevents them from getting to the space, or it's stolen, or it's about why internally do they fail? And that's the tricky part. And it's a part that often, and this is why I say turn to your own flaws first, when you look at that flaw and you say, well, that's how I fix it. Why don't I fix it? And that's the really interesting part. So in my case, why don't I fix the weight thing? Because halfway through the weight is coming off, then it starts to come back on again, and then there's a little voice that says, well, fuck, you're fat anyway, you might as well just eat that extra whatever, and then it all slides back down. So that's what happens. So to break out of that, the cycle, that's where it needs to be broken. Not what needs to be done, but what causes that failure in the first place. So you have to identify the failure, what causes the failure. And that's where it starts to get really, really interesting, in my opinion. When you're trying to create a three-dimensional, fuller character by looking at what causes them to fail internally rather than at the success. So Shadzai, as you say, it's a 12-step program. For me, I can do about 3 steps and I get tired and I got to sit down. So yes, it's interesting journey. If he's indecisive and he attempts to avoid the fact that he's indecisive, so the character is indecisive. Let's unpack this a little bit, Grizzlers. Let's look at this. The character is indecisive. They realize that they need to be decisive. So what are they going to do to get there? Well, they're going to make a decision. But they can't make the decision because they are indecisive. What's causing the indecision in the first place? The reason for that failure, the indecision, what causes that indecision? Is it because they don't want to hurt somebody because they have been hurt themselves by making a decision? Is it because, I don't know, I am internally, I always question my decisions, but I make them because I've been raised to just make a decision and then live with the consequences rather than try and think too much along those lines. So it's something to think about. To fix narcissism and be rightedness, one must be humble. But we fail out of fear of rejection and isolation. Yes, 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 absolutely. So we're not actually trying to fix narcissism. We're trying to fix our fear of rejection and isolation. Much more interesting story. Deciding to quit is the easy part. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Getting rid of the things and staying rid of the things. That's the big difficulty. That's the big difficulty. Yeah. Desire for security, not wanting to be hurt by the unknown, or there we go. There we go. So now, if you now look at this, if you apply this to a character, you've suddenly got this character who's far more in depth than at first. At first, they just had a flaw. Then they had a flaw and they had a goal. And now they've got a flaw that has nothing to do with why they failed. So much to do. So much there. It's really, really cool. I love doing this type of this thing where you unpack, doing it from yourself, from your own perspective. You know, they always say, oh, write what you know, write what you know. I hate that because that would be boring. But you can apply what you know to the story. That's a better space to be in my opinion. So apply your own stuff and then push it there. Apply it to the character. I think that's the way to go. Very heavy thoughts tonight in terms of reflecting upon this. We have that wonderful anonymity that we get. I love that word. Damn it. I was asked the other day in a podcast, what's your favorite word? And I think anonymity is my favorite word because it feeds into one of my other flaws, which I'm not going to talk about on this channel. So there we go. Anonymity allows us to discuss these things perhaps a little bit openly and to explore those things. A friend of mine was a smoker and decided that he was not going to smoke anymore. So he stopped cold turkey dead, didn't touch a cigarette again. I was blown away by it, absolutely blown away by it. So there we are, there we are. Anonymity. Anemone is not bad, Shadzar. Anemone is not bad. Anonymity, I think, is much more fun to say. It makes your mouth do some weird and wonderful things. Dungeon Frog, you're writing this stuff out. So cool. He fails to do so because his lack of patience and the need of micromanagement draws him to speak out in good faith of being helpful to the ones who need his advice. He forsakes the goals he has set for himself. Oh boy. Oh boy, there we go. There we go. Absolutely.
Right.
There's so many things in there. Patience or lack of patience, micromanagement. Yes, absolutely. And you look at this and you go, okay, now this is an interesting journey in terms of the character. Originally wanting to go to that temple's completely gone now. We've got a whole bunch of other issues to deal with. There's a psychology bill here of millions.
Self-finding yourself there. I wanted to go to a temple to just not speak for a year and now have a bunch of other problems. That's a great story.
Yeah. And I think it's always good to look at these things and reflect. And of course, if they are personal, if they are something that is in your life, it is always good to look back, I think. Anyway, and then obviously to apply it to one's character. We have got 13 minutes left until the end of the show. We'll go back to questions now. Yeah, exciting times till in terms of Deos, in terms of Dungeon Fog. Is there any last thought that you would leave us with in terms of Deos? We're not nearly over. I mean, we've got how many days left? Let me just go and check.
Oh, Jesus, I don't know. 23, 24?
23 or 24 days. It's all just a blur, really.
Yeah, it's 22 days. We've passed another day. Right, it's a new day.
22 days to go.
We have an interesting stretch goal ahead of us, which is the randomization. Which means that you don't have to create all the landmasses and all the cities, all planet systems yourself, but you click on button and we generate that for you. It is going to be the last one on our features stretch goals because we wanted to do features first and then other stuff like the desktop application. We did a lot of planning and estimating and thinking of where could this Kickstarter go. but all of you who supported this, just clearly blew through all my estimates. I was like, yeah, no, that doesn't work. Because you were insanely supportive. This is so beautiful, and I just want to take the opportunity to thank you for your support. And by the way, even if you don't, I need to pull that up. I'm going to send that to you guys. Um, Even if you, I don't know, don't like the campaign, don't like the ideas that we're bringing out, you can still help the ones um, who are currently supporting the project, because we've just released our social stretch goals, which means we are giving away free stuff if you share the links, the Twitter post and the Facebook post that we have set on the website. So if you want to support the campaign, just not by throwing money at us, but just by doing something for the campaign, I will give Guy the links in a second, and he will post them here.
Are you
And
giving them to me in that
just click on the link, do a retweet, do a like, do a share, whatever you do with that. It's going to help all the backers to the campaign, because they will get free stuff. Yeah, I'm just copying the links right now. So
Lovely.
maybe.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Free stuff is always cool. That's what we like. We like free stuff. We always like free stuff. Next question. Enasia says, for both of you, if someone in your group was going to play an odd race, an uplifted bear, for example, they're a humanoid bear pretty much, how would they go about asking the GM? Just ask or provide the information on it, or what? Well, that's a good question. Have you ever had anyone play weird and wonderful classes in your game, Till?
Pardon me, come again. I just copied the links to
Sorry.
you.
Yes,
I was
yes.
busy. What was the question?
I'm busy looking at all of these things. I just put all of these links in there: the Facebook link, the Twitter link, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I put that in
Okay,
the.
all right, I'll put that in. All right, so while I'm doing that, you answering the question: weird races. If you want to play a weird race, such as an awakened bear, almost like a werebear, I suppose.
Yeah.
How do you go about approaching your GM? Do you go to the GM and ask? Do you just go?
Yes.
Do you take the character sheet and say, "This is the character I've made already"?
Yeah.
What would you suggest?
I mean, you have to keep in mind that if a good gaming group is collaboration. That means a good GM should not say no to your idea, but he should say, okay, that's interesting. Let's see how that works. A good player will not approach me and say, well, here, take this. That's me. Now deal with that, because I maybe want to incorporate that into the story that you're experiencing. Once again, listen to How We Roll podcast, because they have an awakened cat, which actually is an awakened cat monk, who was formerly the cat of I think the familiar cat of a wizard. And the wizard died, and in one of his last actions, he awakened that cat. And now, in a quest for revenge, that cat went out and found a group. And the story is just absolutely fantastic. I think weird creatures, weird characters are great to improve the story of a game, and create situations on the table that make fun. But again, talk about it. Figure out a way together how to solve that, how to make that happen.
Couldn't agree with you more. When we were doing the races for Ghost of Saltmarsh, I said to the players, hey, go crazy, let's do some cool stuff. And Kaora came up with the idea of, he wanted to play like a kobold thing, and we developed it together and came up with, I think, a pretty cool, pretty exciting race. Actually, as they say, talking about that, what we did, you're going to see these pages coming up soon, but because you guys just stayed around for the stream, this is the first page preview of the book. There we go. So there are actual seabolts. I'm going to keep it, I'll make it a little bit bigger there. So that's the actual layout that we got of the seabolt. So that's the seabolt race that you can get in this Nautical Campaigns book. A little seabolt stealing a bolt, and there's a hammerhead shark and stuff. So yeah, that's the layout of the book, which we'll be releasing shortly. Very briefly on that, as a matter of fact. with regards to that book, there's some exciting things that are going to be happening. Watch this space over the next couple of weeks. Some cool stuff happening. Right, another question. BNNNA UK says, will Project Deus standalone software be released when the beta is finished?
I don't think so. Honestly, it is. It's hard to tell as of now. I don't think it will be released with the beta. I'm not even sure if we will release instantly with the launch of Project Deus, because again, we want to do features first. So I think most people will. I mean, they're excited about the desktop software. I understand that, but our excitement is about map making. So we want to make sure that map making is the thing that we have out first, and then we will dedicate the time to the desktop application, which doesn't mean that we will start with developing the desktop application after we have done everything for the launch, but it means that we will postpone that until it makes sense to start with it. So I wouldn't expect the desktop software anywhere before the launch. More like somewhere around the launch, maybe open beta, maybe afterwards.
Perfect. Okay, Chance Knight says, is there stuff in the book about dealing with storms and weather while at sea? Chance Knight, there is a whole section of dealing with encounters at sea. Storms are just one of them, and yes, I had to include it. A Sharknado is there. There is definitely a Sharknado as a potential encounter at sea, because you have to have that. As a matter of fact, Chance Knight, there are encounters above and below the waters. The entire book is about how to have a complete nautical campaign. So there are submarines, there's gnomish submarines. Well, they're kind of submarines. They're submarines for as long as they remain airtight, and then afterwards they become wrecks. So yeah, there is definitely something there for pretty much if it's a ship campaign. I've got as many of the rules in there as possible. You know, when we started this, it was 30,000 words, which is about 60 pages in length. Then Mike Harris, who's from Game Masters Vault, started editing it, and we started play testing it here in Minneapolis. It is now 140 pages and just shy of 60,000 words. It's doubled in size because it was like, oh, let's add it. Oh, but what about water currents? Okay, right. And this morning I added in how to create giant sea monsters, because a kraken is just not big enough. It really isn't big enough. So there's a whole section on how you actually create a sea monster, and it's a proper castle destroying, ship sinking sea monster with multiple areas that you can target. So it's not just hit it for hit points. No, you can target tentacles and eye. It's all in the book. So it really has been going crazy in terms of its expansion. So all of that information will be coming out, I want to say, in the next week, because of something that's happening next week at Gen Con. So there is definitely something to look out for, because none of the shows will be running. I'm going to try. Oh, we've only got 3 minutes left. Wow. Okay, I'm going to try very quickly. Do you want us to try and do something live from Gen Con? Now, my Friday night, I do Save or Dice from 3 to 6 p.m. That's where I'm running the Save or Dice game. It's going to be a blast. I can't tell you anything except that it's going to be exciting and audience participatory. So if you are going to Gen Con, go and book now for that. There are still seats available for that. Then that goes from 3 to 6, and then at 9 p.m. there's some dungeon thing that I'm doing with a bunch of people. So do you want to stream? I'll try. I mean, I don't know what the Wi-Fi is like down there. I've never been down there before. But anyway, let me know if that's something that you're looking for. Another quick question, Angus Boys. Of the 27 ships boats that are included, will there be any that predate Vikings? They're all fantasy. So off the top of my head, there's the Shopperware War Canoe, which is for the lizard folk. I basically said, okay, all the major races of fantasy, you each get at least one ship. Most get 2 or 3, and then we go from there. Grizzlies with your colossal category. Dungeons and Dragons only goes up to gargantuan, but most of these are colossal and even bigger. I was thinking of things like Titanic class, Titanic size creatures. I mean, these are things that are 300, 400, 500 feet in length, not just 100 feet. I mean, those are rookie numbers, right? We can get those numbers up as far as I'm concerned. So people are saying, thanks, Till. Thank you so much for being in the stream with us tonight. What was that podcast you were mentioning?
How We Roll podcast.
How We Roll
podcast.
How We
And
Roll.
if you look behind me, you can see that the sun is rising.
Oh, yay! It's just setting here. No, magic. Yes, Xander Green, some great questions there. If your questions were not answered tonight, because we have run out of time, if your questions were not answered tonight, head on over to discord.gg/greatgm, discord.gg/greatgm. You will see that there is a channel there called live stream questions. I think it is. I was supposed to go through those and I completely forgot because I was busy talking to my hosts this evening. Live questions QA. You can ask your questions in there, and the community will answer, and I will answer if you put the giant question in front of it, and it doesn't get lost in the lots of things. So yes, have a look at that if you didn't get there. So as they say, good morning, Till, and good night to Guy. Yes, it's 10 o'clock here tonight. So thank you, Till, for being with us and for sharing some more about Project X.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you around.
Learned a lot about myself in the last section.
Well, there we go. Anyway, glad to hear that. And to all of you who stayed with us and who answered questions and asked questions and participated, I thank each and every one of you. I had an absolute blast. And until next time, which will maybe be next week, I will try and do a stream. If there's time from Gen Con, I will try desperately try to do that. There is no Ghost of Saltmarsh this weekend, and there is no Ghost of Saltmarsh next weekend either, because of the fact that Janet from World Anvil and Michael from Dead Aussie Gaming and myself will be at Gen Con. So we will be back regular scheduling in the first week of August. Until then, thank you all and goodbye.